Welcome to the MLB Slate Breakdown. I'm Jason Gilmo. With me is Brent Hyden. Taking a look at tonight's five-game slate. A small Thursday slate as usual. It's not a bad one. At least we have a couple of decent pitching names on the slate, but nothing thrilling.
Yeah, I'm not incredibly thrilled with most of the pitching options. There's some big name pitchers on here, and there's a couple guys we're going to talk about that I think are viable, and a few arms that I'm really excited to stack against, particularly one named Matt Harvey.
Yeah, Dark Knight. I don't mind stacking against Dark Knight.
I've been doing it for a long time now.
First game here, Pittsburgh and Philly in Philadelphia. Jameson Taillon versus Jake Arrieta. One of the lower scoring games on the night, at least projected. Wind blowing in there. Taillon, the problem with him here for me is just the price tag. I don't think he can. Could pay it off. I think there are some strikeouts obviously within this Philly team. We have seen some strikeout games out of him before. I'm just never a huge fan of like paying double digits for Taillon, which we have been.
Yeah, I'm not really a big fan of it either. The only thing is like, where else are you going to go? Honestly, like, I mean, you have two pitchers that are in double digits on DraftKings, and then everyone else is like in the 7Ks. And if you're looking over on FanDuel, let me pull up theirs. I have their NBA pricing up at the moment. Oh, I got logged out again. Woohoo! I imagine it's pretty much the same thing over there. I mean, as much as I hate paying up for guys like Taillon, you just kind of have to on a slate like this, and especially against the Phillies team that has been striking out like 27% of the time this season. They're still below league average when it comes to putting runs on the board. 302 WOBA as a team, like there's still plenty of good strikeouts in this lineup.
Yeah, there definitely is. Like, for me, I think he's fine. Like, cash games, GPPs, like you can get your exposure there. Because like you said, there are a limited options. I think there's maybe two other options that I'm really going to consider.
Yeah, my biggest concern is if they load up lefties in that lineup because he has shown less strikeout upside against lefties, a 16% strikeout rate dating back to last season, 329 WOBA allowed. That being said, Gabe Kapler hasn't necessarily done the smart move in the past. Right now, it's projected that you're going to get Hernandez, Santana, Odubel, Nick Williams, and J.P. Crawford in that lineup. That's a lot of lefties. But we're just going to have to wait and see what the lineup looks like. And if he does load up righties for some reason, that makes Taillon an even better option.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned, like, I think if you want to be contrarian because of the numbers against lefties, you can use some Phillies here. I think like a Nick Williams or Santana, Hernandez, Herrera, some of the bigger left-handed bats would be intriguing ways to go because a lot of people will be on Taillon here tonight.
Yeah, definitely a good tournament option. I saw a funny tweet last night about Nick Williams and how they needed to raise his price because people are tired of rostering him and him sucking.
It's true. It's true.
I thought that was funny, but he is pretty solid against righties. He does strike out a decent amount, 27.6% of the time, dating back to last season. But a 198 ISO, 349 WOBA. I mean, he's a viable option if you're wanting to stack Phillies if you're a glutton for punishment.
Other side of things here, Jake Arrieta against the Pirates. I'm not really looking to use Jake Arrieta even at these prices. Like, I get that he's cheap, but I just don't see any real strikeout upside here.
If it was a team other than Pittsburgh, I would possibly consider it. But like Arrieta not generating swinging strikes in his first couple of outings, not a lot of strikeout potential. I mean, he struck out 5 against the Marlins, but that's the Marlins, so like take that with a grain of salt. I think I would rather stack the Pirates here, and stacking the Pirates is something I've been doing pretty much all season long. And against a team like that can load up lefties in that lineup against a guy that does struggle against lefties, that's pretty concerning when it comes to Arrieta. Even in like a park where the wind is blowing in pretty strongly.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like Gregory Polanco here. I'll go back to like Adam Frazier leading off. I think Josh Bell's interesting for his base play there. If you want to get kind of contrarian tonight, just because not a lot of people are going to use Josh Bell, just because a lot of people just tend to pay up at the position, unless they use Ryan Zimmerman.
Yeah.
Dickerson, like Moran, like I all the lefties here very much in play.
Yeah, and I don't even mind sprinkling in like Starling Marte and doing it that way. But you mentioned Josh Bell. He's the guy I have the most interest in, him and Colin Moran. I mean, Bell, a guy who rarely strikes out, about a league average strikeout rate, 202 ISO dating back to last season against right-handed pitching, 340 WOBA. Hitting the ball really well so far to start the season. Excellent option there. And then Colin Moran, just a guy who's going to bat towards the bottom of that order, but still just, I mean, he's still hitting the ball and putting up solid numbers. And like, he's not putting up anything that's going to like blow your mind recently, but like you're getting a guy that is at least getting on base and maybe getting a run or two here or there.
Yeah, for sure. So, let's move on. New York and Atlanta. We got Matt Harvey, and it's either Whistler or Sims pitching for Atlanta today. Still going to have interest in these Mets bats either way.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to have interest in either in Mets bats. It just depends on which pitcher gets confirmed as to like which bats I really want to attack here. Matt Whistler, a guy really, really bad against left-handed hitters, 458 WOBA allowed dating back to last season, 12.2% strikeout rate, 1.88 homers per nine. So if it's Whistler that gets in there, I definitely want to get some of the lefties, and then you can sprinkle in righties, of course, because Whistler is terrible. And if it's Lucas Sims that gets in, like I think I'm more inclined to roster the righties here because he gives up 1.87 homers per 9 innings dating back to last season against righties. So it just depends on which one gets confirmed. It has not actually been confirmed. I just checked the Twitter timeline of their beat writer, and it still has not been confirmed yet. So whichever one gets in there, it's just going to kind of matter. Mets are going to be a popular option against these against whichever one of these pitchers gets in the lineup.
Sorry, you're going to have to keep talking. I am going to close my windows. So,
okay, so on the other side of the mound, we have Matt Harvey, Matt Harvey is a shell of himself. He's been serviceable in one outing so far this season. He posted a good game against the Phillies, but against Washington and against Milwaukee, completely got shelled. Just not a guy I think has any potential to put up a solid game here against the Braves. I don't like taking pitchers against the Braves in the first place, and I'm definitely not going to take Matt Harvey. So on the other side, like I think you can basically stack this game with Mets and Braves.
Yeah, I agree. I like the lefties there for Atlanta. I like some of the cheaper power bats. I love Ozzie Albies tonight. We'll be getting probably a ton of exposure to him at second base.
Yeah, I love Albies in this spots. I still love Ryan Flaherty down towards the bottom of that order. We're gonna have to keep an eye on the lineup for the Braves. Freddie Freeman took another ball to the wrist yesterday. It was Charlie Culberson that came in and in his place. Culberson probably gets in the lineup over if Freeman sits. He's not a guy that has great numbers against righties, but it's a small sample size, so he's just a value option to consider. And then, of course, you can look at Preston Tucker, Ender Inciarte, Markakis, any of those guys.
Yeah, I guess I don't even hate like Kurt Suzuki or like Dansby Swanson here either. Like, even though I do prefer the lefties, like Harvey's still allowed a 335 WOBA to righties going back to last year. The ground ball rate is a little bit higher, but like Suzuki and Dansby are like cheap options you can use, especially Suzuki at 2.8.
Yeah, I love Suzuki in the spot, and you mentioned Swanson guy again towards the bottom of that order. Like I kind of like the bottom of that order like stack. Like you could get Tucker, Swanson, Flaherty, and Suzuki, and be a little bit contrarian.
Yeah, I agree. Anyone else there?
Nope.
Miami and Milwaukee next here. I have Dylan Peters taking on Chase Anderson. I have a lot of interest in Anderson here tonight. Going up against a Marlins team that obviously is not very good. Some of the better bats are from the left side. And just because Anderson is, he's been very solid against lefties, 261 WOBA allowed to lefties last year, 25% strikeout rate. Obviously still very solid against righties. I think Anderson's my guy here tonight.
Yeah, I think on like two pitcher sites, he's obviously the top, SP2 option. I think behind, or he is like Tyon's still your top option. I think he's your top, SP2 option in this spot against a Marlins team. You mentioned like they like to strike out. I mean, we're talking 25% strikeout rate so far this season. Not a lot of power. I know you have to worry about JT Realmuto and Justin Bour, guys that can get to Anderson in the spot, but like if you're able to get around those two guys, I think he's in line for a good game here.
Yeah, I do too. I don't have any interest in Miami bats. I mean, if you want to use a contrarian board just because it's good power, good ballpark, I'm okay with that. But that's about it.
I don't mind JT Realmuto averaging 25 fantasy points per game so far this season.
He really is a stud. Like he's a stud DFS catcher.
I don't know that I would use him in this spot, but like he is a solid like one-off catcher. I mean, we are talking Chase Anderson. He does have like a 41% fly ball rate to righties dating back to last season. 1.1 homers per nine. Like if you wanted to get like a one-off catcher option, you could roll out JT Realmuto.
Milwaukee side of things here against the lefty Peters. At these prices, I kind of expect some of these Milwaukee guys to be, rather chalky, I guess, tonight, just because like there isn't really a solid pay down option on the hill, so you're going to need to use some of these guys. And the fact that like Domingo Santana and Jesus Aguilar and Hernan Perez and Arcia, Bandy, all these guys are lower 3Ks, or high 2s even. I think they're going to grade out as pretty solid value that I don't mind just kind of plugging and playing, especially like Lorenzo Cain at 4K just seems like a lock.
Yeah, it's a good spot for these Brewers. You mentioned those bats. Like I love Jet Bandy, Jesus Aguilar, Lorenzo Cain in the spot. On the flip side, like I don't necessarily think you have to overlook Peters as a cheap SP2 option. Like there is some strikeout.
Ooh.
There is some strikeout potential in this lineup. There's only 5K on DraftKings. Like you're not looking at him on FanDuel like as an SP1, but like as a cheap SP2 option, there's a little bit of strikeout potential in this lineup. He is a guy that generates a decent amount of ground balls. We know the Brewers at times can struggle. I mean, they are well below league average facing lefties. So I think he's a guy you can at least look at as an SP2 option. But if you wanted to stack the Brewers, I think you can get away with some of these guys as well. Santana profiles as an excellent option here.
Yeah, I don't know if Braun will be back in the lineup. If he is, I have some interest, but he's day to day.
Yeah, but like that would be, yeah, I would have some interest in him if he's in the lineup for sure.
Yeah, but outside of that, I mean, I don't mind the value guys. Do still like the Mets and Braves offenses a little bit more.
Yeah, and I'm looking at his pitch profile right now. Like if you look, he's throwing like a four-seam fastball about 51% of the time to righties. It's low velocity, about 90 miles per hour, but there's a decent amount of swinging strikes in that lineup from some of these guys against that pitch.
Which is, come on, Brewers, give me a break.
And curveballs, like he throws it 33% of the time, and like if you look, like there's Domingo Santana's 17% swinging strike rates, VR 20%. You have Aguiar 23%. Ryan Braun 18%, Jet Bandy 14%. There's some swinging strikes in that lineup.
Brent, I didn't come on this pod for you to talk me off Brewers. All right, if I want to piss my money away on Brewers again, I will damn well do it.
I mean, they're going to be a chalky option, so like it's a small slate. You have to take a little bit of risks if you're wanting to take down a tournament. Just throwing that out there.
It's true. Yeah, I don't hate it. I would rather use Peters over like a Harvey or anyone else, though. So I guess that's true.
Yeah.
Moving into later games, I got San Francisco and Arizona. Ty Bletch, as you like to call him here. Zach Greinke. Any interest in like Greinke here? Like even on a small slate, Giants haven't exactly been hitting well this series or this year.
I think you have to at least consider him in this spot. Like I know the Giants have kind of struggled a little bit. There are some strikeouts in that lineup. I mean, this season they're striking out 25% of the time. It's right-handed pitching. There's strikeouts available for him. I just don't know that I feel completely comfortable with Zach Greinke against this team that does have some guys that hit right-handed pitching pretty darn well.
Yeah, like that's a concern for me here. Obviously the strikeout rate has been fine throughout the year. I mean, upper 20s against both sides of the plate. Obviously a guy who doesn't walk anyone, which is nice. Hard contact, some of the fly ball line drive rates are a little bit concerning. especially the left-handers. 44% of the balls hit by lefties this year are over 95 miles an hour. I think that's concerning facing, Panic, Belt, Crawford, probably get like maybe Blanco in the lineup, but still even the righties are a little bit of a concern here. I think you can take some one-offs from the Giants or even a little Giants stack to be contrarian tonight.
I think you can too, and like I don't necessarily mind Greinke in tournaments. He's not someone that I'm going to be looking at in cash games, just because, like I said, there's a lot of risk with him. And you mentioned the exit velocity for the handedness of these guys, but like his average distance so far this season is 205 feet, and that's a little concerning whenever you get in a park like this. I know it's kind of toned down with the homers. I guess the humidor is in effect a little bit, but I still think you can look at Belt, Panic, Posey, Blanco, McCutcheon. Any of these guys could be in play here.
Yeah, I think so. And like you look at some of these guys, I mean, don't have huge numbers often, but there's a couple homers in terms of like PVP numbers. I think I'm going to have probably more interest on the Diamondback side, but I don't mind like the Belt and Crawfords and Panics, just because they are cheap lefty power bats that you can consider here.
Yeah, for sure.
Arizona, disappointing night. They kind of came alive a little bit towards the end, but not enough. I definitely don't mind like Goldschmidt and Pollock, obviously against a lefty, especially against a lefty who just doesn't miss any bats.
Yeah, I think they're going to be a popular option, and you obviously have to look at Goldschmidt in this spot. He has just insane numbers against lefties, 320 ISO dating back to last season, 431 WOBA. If you want to roll him out, I think he's your top first base option if Freddie Freeman is not in the lineup today. So excellent spot there. I love Pollock, Peralta, anyone at the top of that lineup. You might get Nick Ahmed in the lineup, which would be awesome because I love me some Nick Ahmed. Devin Marrero is an excellent cheap option, I think, to consider. And then Ketel Marte continues to be way too cheap at shortstop.
Yeah, his numbers against lefties dating back to last year, 343 with 200 ISO.
He's got some decent numbers, and I actually like him. I mean, he's also got some stolen base potential.
Yeah, he does 37% hard contact rate. Like he does hit a lot of balls on the ground, but yeah, extra base hit potential there. I mean, this is a guy who has a couple triples on the year already.
Yes.
So, but yeah, like the calls, like those backhand calls with like Ahmed, and hopefully like Marrero gets the line because he'd be an excellent value.
Yeah, and you're probably going to get like Jeff Mathis versus the lefty. Like Jeff Mathis is not a good baseball player, but he's 2,200 on DraftKings.
Yeah. Boston and LA next here. Eduardo Rodriguez take on Nick Tropiano. I don't have any interest. I like Eduardo Rodriguez, but I don't have any interest in the pitchers here.
I don't think you can. Like you have Tropiano going against a Red Sox offense that's just mashing the ball right now. And then you have Rodriguez, who is generally a very, very high strikeout guy, going against an Angels offense that just doesn't strike out that much. I know they struggled against Porcello. I don't really care. Like it's one of those situations where like I'm still going to ride with the numbers that say they don't strike out very much against anybody. So I'm probably stacking both sides of this game again.
Yeah, I am too. And like starting with the Angels side here, like obviously Mike Trout, but like Justin Upton against lefties is just absurd numbers. Like he's among the like Goldschmidts and JD Martinez's as far as like his ISO and WOBA numbers against southpaws. And Upton, I think Cozart's will go overlooked, kind of being back in the middle half of that lineup. Has some interest in like Kinsler as well. And then I don't even hate like if you want to punt with some guys like Simmons or Maldonado, who you should get in the lineup, and whatever else they do with that back half.
Yeah, depending on which catcher gets in the lineup, I would actually kind of prefer Rene Rivera.
Yeah.
He has an insane amount of power against lefties, so I think I like him a little bit more if he gets in the lineup. But you mentioned Upton, 350 ISO dating back to last season. His strikeout rate well below league average. Great spot for him. Trout, still one of the best hitters in baseball. Great option there. I love Cozart and Kinsler as a guy leading off in that lineup that I think is going to be an overlooked option that I actually really, really like.
Yeah, I do too. Oh, wait, hold on. The Angels got Jabari Blash.
Did they really?
I don't know if this is old news. Yeah, I think they did. Yeah, or honestly, I don't think he's up, but he'd be an interesting name if he ever came up against lefties.
Yeah, he would be someone to keep an eye on. It looks like, I mean, they might end up using Chris Young in that
Yeah.
spot. Generally, he's a guy that is kind of like a platoon bat against lefties. He'd be a value option I think you can look at.
Yep. Boston side of things here, I don't mind both sides of the play here against Tropiano.
I don't either. I got my JD Martinez homer last night. Woohoo! But if we're looking at Tropiano, obviously he doesn't have a sample from last season because he was out all year. But it's 6 innings pitched this season. Gave up a lot of hard contacts to both sides of the plates. Obviously had some strikeout stuff against the Royals. I don't expect that to continue tonight. I love JD Martinez once again. Still going to strike out a decent amount, but he has still a ton of power. Nunez, Benintendi, Betts, Hanley, all these guys are just hitting the ball really freaking hard recently. And one guy that stands out, Su-Wei Lin, 94-mile-an-hour average exit velocity this season.
He's it's funny because like the whole Boston like crowd is like they want him in the lineup more often. Like they're like dying for him to be in the lineup.
He's apparently got some stuff.
A lot of people are thinking he could be a longer term option when Pedroia goes. I'm not against it.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but I'm in agreement. Like I don't mind using back half guys. Obviously, you can use the studs, but I don't mind diving into some of the actual value that Boston brings. Like Jackie Bradley, you mentioned Nunez. I think even Brock Holt's an interesting punt option, just because if you are paying up, you're going to need a few of these guys that are really cheap.
Yeah, and you would expect that, Boston's going to be pretty popular tonight, especially after what they've done the past couple nights. And if you're wanting to be contrarian on a very small slate, like you're like taking the back half, you can get Nunez, Bradley, Vasquez, or Swihart, or whichever catcher gets in the lineup, and Brock Holt, and you can be contrarian by doing like a bottom end / wraparound stack.
Yeah, which one of the 5 catchers that they carry on their team?
Yeah, at least like they can justify having Swihart because he can play more than just catcher.
Yeah, and he's been the better hitting catcher so far. Obviously, limited sample size, but Vasquez and Sandy have not been doing much.
Swihart was crushing it in spring training too.
Yeah, so definitely like that game. Like you said, probably ownership more so on the Boston side, but like I think like Upton and Trout will still gain some ownership, but I think everyone else will be a little bit lower owned.
Yeah, I agree there.
So, home run calls. Who do you got?
Let me go with Colin Moran as my contrarian. And man, my chalk one's that's a tough one. Justin Upton.
I like it. Contrarian, I'm going to go Jet Bandy for my contrarian one.
Bandy Goat.
And chalk, I'm going to go Goldschmidt there.
I dig it.
So both got to take the lefty power bats.
For sure.
That's it for us. You can enter DaveFantasyCafe.com, check out our tools and content, and we'll be back tomorrow.
Good luck tonight.